Very good afternoon to everybody. It is just gone 4 p.m. The 2nd, is it the 2nd of March? Yes, it is. The 2nd of March. Meteorological spring is here, and I'm back at Mark Fogan Weather HQ in Edmonton, Northern Scotland. How is everybody doing on this rather blustery Sunday afternoon? Let me know in the live chat how you're doing this afternoon, what you're up to, what is for dinner. I hope you're all safe and well wherever you are, and yes, back to normal once again after what has been a fantastic holiday over in Southeast Asia. We've seen thunder, lightning. We had temperatures generally in the kind of 33, 34 Celsius range every day. Nighttime minimums in the mid-20s. And you're only 2 degrees north of the equator in Kuala Lumpur. So very, very hot, very sticky, pretty much 24 hours a day and 365 days a year. You do not get much reprieve from the intense heat in that part of the world, as is the case pretty much anywhere along the equatorial belt. Very interesting climate, actually, because Kuala Lumpur is home to some of the most thunderstorm-prone area on the planet, actually. It averages 240 days a year lightning activity, which is pretty astonishing. I believe London is only 10 days per year that you get lightning in the Greater London area. So, yeah, very fascinating stuff. Very warm welcome to Joyce Fogan down in Kirkintilloch. Hope you're doing well, Mum, and keeping well. We've got Braemar, Ballar, D-side and Donside weather. I'll try and not screw that one up as we progress through the live stream. Seafood and Eat It is also on. We have Lindsay. Thanks to Lindsay next door for moderating today's stream as well. Greatly appreciated. She's just put on the pork. So that will be cooking away over the next hour and a half or so. And looking forward to that a little bit later on. We've also got Kirk Thorne tuning in. A very good afternoon to Kirk. So how is everybody doing? We have now reached meteorological spring. We are seeing a bit of an uplift in temperature. We're seeing obviously a lot longer daylight now compared to what we've seen back 4, 5, 6 weeks ago for sure. And through the course of March, we're going to see an even greater increase. We've obviously got the change of the clocks at the end of the month. And I'm sure many people are kind of glad to essentially see the back of winter. I know there is people out there that love winter. I love winter myself. But I suppose once you get to this stage in the calendar year, you're kind of looking forward to some warmer weather and get out into the garden. Been out and about this afternoon. We've been doing some spring cleaning here in the house. Arrived back on Friday morning. We've had a day or so where we've been able to recover slightly, and we're just trying to get our back to normal once again. You've got an 8-hour time difference between Malaysia and the UK as well, so that kind of does have an effect on the body, obviously. So is everything okay? Yeah. Sorry, Lindsay just walked past her. She looked as if she was busy there, and I thought, is everything okay? But everything is okay, thankfully. So anyway, it wouldn't be a live stream without some sort of interesting event in the background, I suppose. So yeah, we've also got Paul James tuning in. Good afternoon to Paul. We've got Paul Farwell. We've got Richard Gray. We've got Simon Davis also tuning in. So it is great to see everybody on today's stream. You know the drill. Do I even have to say it? Well, I'm going to say it anyway. Be sure to hit that like button. It certainly does help the reach of the channel on the YouTube platform. Obviously, it is now a time of the year where you do start to see a little bit of a drop off in subscribers. But hang with me, because there is plenty more content coming up here on the channel in the coming days and weeks. Obviously, I'm going to start to build the summer forecast. That will get released towards the end of May. But well before that, we're going to be looking at how I'm kind of going to start to build that idea, looking at the teleconnections globally, looking at the weather pattern through the course of spring. That can have an effect on temperature and atmospheric pressure as we step into the early portions of the summer season. So it certainly is going to be an interesting watch. I'm going to be releasing a 2025 hurricane season forecast as well. And every Saturday coming up, in a few weeks' time, I'm going to be doing a tropical update video or outlook like I did last year. I think that was a hit for some folks anyway, and I quite enjoyed doing that, I must admit. So I will be doing both a hurricane forecast and also the tropical outlook every Saturday as we step towards the beginning of the hurricane season. And that will last all the way through probably till the latter half of autumn. Obviously, the hurricane season goes between the 1st of June and the 30th of November. But I would greatly appreciate it if you can stick around. If you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that subscribe button because it is greatly appreciated. I also am probably going to take a few Saturdays off over the next few weeks, probably starting next Saturday. It's been a pretty long winter. There's been literally a video every single day, with the exceptions of New Year's Day. There has been an upload or a live stream or whatever every single day of the week. And it is only a one-man band. I don't have any support in terms of people helping out with the videos. It's solely my own work, and obviously, most of you know anyway that I work full time as a lorry driver, driving night shifts between Glasgow and Inverness. So I think I've earned a little bit of a break, and I'm going to take that in the coming Saturdays to come. So probably, like I said, the next Saturday we reach, I'm going to be taking that off, and that will be the case as we go through the next few weeks. It tends to be a little bit of a downturn in terms of overall activity on the channel between later in March through April and into May, and then it starts to pick back up once again. So I'm going to take advantage of that little bit of a reprieve and a little decrease in activity over the next several weeks. So yes, and thanks again to everybody for the kind birthday wishes. Last Sunday was my birthday. I did a live stream at the unusual time of 11 a.m. UK time, but that was actually at 7 p.m. in Malaysia. And we were supposed to go out to an Iraqi restaurant for dinner after I did that live stream, but the heavens really opened. There was quite a significant thunderstorm actually took place. And instead of going out for dinner, we ordered room service. So we had a nice lamb dinner. Lindsay had fish and chips, and it was a lovely evening. I must admit, quite a nice, relaxed evening. So yeah, that was my birthday last week. We were out and about during the daytime, and then generally kind of late afternoon, we tended to go into the pool to kind of cool off. But you could start to feel yourself getting a little bit overheated almost, because of the hot, sticky conditions. So it was always nice to jump into the pool kind of late afternoon and cool down. So anyway, let me get through the chat here and see how things are with everybody. So Braemar, Ballar, D-side and Donside Weather, good afternoon. Welcome home, sir. Thank you very much to Chris for that. Seafood Neater, hi Mark. -7 at Allergy, I think that's pronounced right. Estate Corgarth overnight, by the way. So yeah, chilly old temperatures in recent nights. We've seen the coldest temperatures actually across the southern UK over the last couple of nights. A little bit of breeze and cloud cover keeping temperatures up over western and northern areas of the UK. Near the area of high pressure, we've got the clear skies, light winds, and that radiational cooling taking place. I think I've seen at least -5 at Sennybridge in South Wales this morning. So let us just see here. Good afternoon from sunny South Wales. Hope you enjoyed your holiday, says Simon. I certainly did, my friend. Richard Gray saying, hi Mark, glorious day in Devon. today, hoping it will last next week. It certainly looks as if we've got a pretty settled upcoming week to come. We do have a frontal system that will weaken as it progresses east in the coming days, but generally speaking, it's a reasonably dry week. We are also going to see an uptick in temperatures, southwesterly winds, and with the help of that strengthening March sun, we should start to see a response in terms of the temperature. Paul Farwell saying good afternoon, Mark. Frosty but sunny day in Swindon. Blustery day here in Skye, says Seafood and Eat It. Let me just see here what everybody is saying. We've got Maddie P also tuning in afternoon. First time catching this live in a while. Lovely and sunny in mid-Norfolk this afternoon. I don't think it will last though. Very warm welcome to Maddie. It's good to see you. I appreciate you tuning in to this afternoon's live stream, and I hope you're having a good weekend. Let me just see if there's anybody else mentioning. We've got Soot also in the live chat as well. The sun is now feeling a lot more powerful now. I like it, and I'm sure most people will agree with you, Soot, that it is nice to see the lengthening days, the shorter nights, and also that apricity, that feeling, the warmth of the air. That is a word that the Met Office have been mentioning in recent times. Also, by the way, be sure to check out the March Outlook that was released back during the course of last work week. So I talk a little bit about obviously the winter that's just gone. It looks as if it's been the Met Office stats are probably going to come out tomorrow, but I think it's been a slightly warmer than average winter. That was forecasted by myself. There has been the back and forth. I've explained it in recent days, so I'm not going to go over it too much. But I've scored a 7.5 out of 10 in terms of the accuracy of what was said in the forecast versus the reality of the overall winter itself. I think I'm certainly pleased with how the forecast turned out, and that's coming off a pretty decent summer forecast. So overall, the past two seasonal forecasts have been pretty decent. Actually, I'm very pleased with how that's panned out. All that hard work over the course of the months has, in my opinion anyway, paid off quite nicely. And it'll be interesting to see how the summer of 2025 pans out. It's going to be, I'm quite interested actually at how this spring pans out, and then how the weather is going to evolve, because obviously we did have quite a mixed summer last year. It was the coolest summer since 2015. There's a part of me that's kind of thinking it's going to be a warmer summer this year, possibly a little bit more in the way of drier and settled as well. Certainly the fact that we're coming off a La Nina winter as well, that may be something to kind of pay close attention to actually. So we've also got, who have we got here? We've got Kirk Thorne, we've got Katrine also tune in, and we've also got Sync Splint on the live chat this afternoon as well. Good afternoon to Sync Splint and Katrine. Hope you are both well. This is check out the March Outlook, freely available on markhoganweather.com. This is how the past 90 days has panned out globally. So this pretty much incorporates the winter just gone. And the big standout for me is the amount of warmth that we've got over northern Eurasia and North America. And we've got this kind of belt of colder than average over the majority of pretty much in the same longitude, if you notice here, or latitude, should I say. So you've got this kind of exceptionally mild conditions up across much of Canada, across Alaska, right the way across Russia, including Kazakhstan and Mongolia here. But we've had a fairly cool winter across western and northern China, into the Middle East as well. Now, Lindsay and I were flying Edinburgh to Doha in Qatar, then from Doha to Kuala Lumpur, and I noticed flying across Europe, it was the A350 that we flew, and it has the onboard cameras, and you've got that option that you can select the different camera views of the plane. Really pretty cool actually to see that. I was fortunate enough to fly the A380 back a couple of years ago, and it too also had the cameras on board. And it was fascinating flying over Germany and then even down into, what was it, Germany, into the Czech Republic, Hungary. And there wasn't a great deal of snow on the ground, which was interesting, despite the fact that we had the coldest of the entire winter affecting the central and eastern area of Europe. And I noticed that the lack of snow-covered ground. I think over the course of the holiday, I think there was more snow starting to fill in across eastern parts of Europe. But nevertheless, flying over that part of Central Europe back on the 19th of February, there wasn't a great deal of snow on the ground, which was quite interesting to see. And even flying in over the Middle East, we flew over, obviously you tend to fly that route over Turkey and then into across Iraq and then across the Persian Gulf and into Qatar. And the temperatures were fairly subdued, I must admit. I know it cools down usually during the winter season, and it tends to be a little bit warmer down over Qatar into the United Arab Emirates and Oman and even Saudi Arabia. But up across Iraq and Syria, certainly some pretty darn cold temperatures down there on the ground level. And even in, over the past week to 10 days, we've seen temperatures that have been very, very cold. Minus 35, for example, in Turkey. We had minus 8 across northern portions of Iraq. I do know that obviously it does turn cold during the winter season, but it has been a pretty chilly overall winter. And I'm sure folks and residents here in this part of the world are probably making the most of these cool temperatures because we know what's going to happen. It rises into the 40s and even into the low 50s as we move towards June, July and August. It is a real furnace in this part of the world. So I'm sure it's been a welcome winter in terms of having slight chillier conditions compared to average in parts of the Middle East. Northern portions of Africa also slightly cool. Where else? Even the UK and Ireland, for the last 90 days, it has been slightly warmer than average, and Europe overall has been warmer than average as well. Moving across to North America, this has been a very interesting winter indeed, the coldest January since 1994. And over the course of December, January and February, you can see here the northwest, northern plains, and generally east of the Rockies, it's been a colder than average winter overall. So this has probably been one of the coldest winters in some time across the lower 48 of North America. Looking down under, this has been the summer across Australia. So the June through December, January and February, winter in the Northern Hemisphere, and obviously summer down in Australia. It has been a warmer than average summer across Australia. I will get there in the end. I was starting to get myself slightly confused. Looking at South America then, obviously summer here also, and you can see that the Brazil, central and eastern Brazil in particular, has been pretty hot over the course of the past 3 months or so here. Slightly colder than average across parts of Uruguay, Paraguay, northern Argentina, then the rest of Argentina and Chile, generally warmer than average, near average across the Amazon River basin, for example. That basin itself, very, very vast area. We've actually had average temperatures according to the CDAS, and I think it's been pretty wet compared to average. A normally wet place, obviously, but I think it has been even wetter than you typically see over Amazonia during the course of their summer season. So looking elsewhere then at the Northern Hemisphere in terms of the view, and you can see here that we've had abnormally warm conditions up into the high latitudes and the Arctic region. Looking at the month of February then, and let me just see here. Bear with me a second here. So this is the month of March so far, but we'll skip back to the month of February, and this is how things are looking overall. Now, interesting how we've got the warmth up into the high latitudes, but we've also got a belt of colder than average through the mid latitudes. We'll look at the equatorial view because it gives you a slightly better a better viewpoint actually. And you can see a lot of cold across parts of Eastern Europe through the Middle East. It was a pretty cool February actually here, which is interesting. And then across much of China and even into parts of Mongolia, warmer than average across Kazakhstan. But Russia, like December, like January, was seeing a warmer than average February here also. Looking at the United States then, this is quite interesting. Warm Greenland, warm Canada for the most part, northern and eastern anyway. But if we look at the continent in more detail, this is March. So we'll go back to February. And you can see here that it has been very, very cold across much of British Columbia, Alberta, southern Manitoba, and Saskatchewan has been abnormally cold. But the bullseye, the cold for the month of February has been over Montana and the Dakotas here. This is probably one of the coldest Februaries in quite some time in this part of the United States. Warmer than average across the southwest and also the southeast, below average across the northeast. So quite an interesting temperature anomaly profile across North America for the month of February. And like I say, this is how the first couple of days of March has looked. So we've got a core of cold across the Great Lakes, northern portions of Minnesota, southern Manitoba, and also southern Ontario. Also much of Quebec has been quite cold over the last couple of days. But look at how warm it's been across parts of the southeast United States. The west has been very mild compared to average, and that has extended all the way up into central and western Canada, Alaska, Greenland also. So yeah, that is how things have started off the month of March. Also for Europe here, it's been a coolish start, especially across England and Wales, warmer than average across Scotland, if you notice, and then it's been slightly colder than average across the Ireland and Northern Ireland as well. The cold that has been present over recent weeks in the southeast still lingering, if you notice, especially to the north and northeast of the Black Sea. Some very, very chilly conditions up into Georgia and Azerbaijan. Eastern portions of Turkey as well has been considerably colder than average. And then that extends into parts of Syria, Lebanon, parts of northern Iraq, etc., etc. It's been a chilly start to March. I'm getting myself confused here. Again, I do apologise for that, folks. So, yeah, it's been a long day. It's been a long day, and I think I'm probably still slightly jet lagged, it has to be said. Back to work tomorrow. Lindsay's back to work at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. The joys. I noticed this article, by the way, from AccuWeather showing that 7 babies die of hypothermia in Gaza, health officials say. So this cold that I'm speaking about has been causing problems across parts of the Middle East, as already explained here. It says doctors in Gaza warned of a disaster in the rising number of babies suffering from hypothermia as they try to survive winter conditions in the Gaza Strip. So a very, very sad situation in this part of the world. Obviously a very, very devastating situation ongoing here, but made worse by the weather conditions that they're experiencing in this part of the world. So let me see here what else I can show you. This is the upcoming week of the CFSV2 then, and you can see here that we've got the below average heights across the North Atlantic, Greenland. We've got the strong positive over Europe, over the central North Atlantic. We've got a deep trough here extending from Hudson Bay down into the southeast United States. Area of high pressure, blocking high pressure, extending up into northwestern Canada and Alaska. And that is exerting influence up into the Arctic region, is creating this deepening of the trough, and we're seeing cold air getting driven southwards over the eastern side of North America, and that trough extends over into southern portions of Greenland, Iceland as well, and northern portions of Scandinavia. So that's the upcoming 7 days of the model here, but let's have a look at the North American view in terms of the temperature anomalies for the next 7 days. We'll blow this up to make it a little bit easier to see. So this is the temperature anomalies for North America, which is interesting given the fact that we've got this trough over the central and eastern United States. We've actually got warmer than average seen by the CFSV2. Then this is the week 2, and you see here largely warmer than average across Canada, central United States with a cold west and cold southeast compared to average anyway. Let's have a quick look at Europe then and see what the temperature anomalies are looking like over the next 7 days here. And it is firmly warmer than average. We've got southwesterly winds. We've got largely high pressure to the south and southeast in the UK. And therefore, we're seeing the flow with low pressure out over the Atlantic, high pressure to the southeast of the UK. You've got that flow coming in from the southwest, creating warmer than average conditions. In the week 2, warmer than average. In the week 3, warmer than average as well. Very, very anomalous warmth. If you notice here, that this is the period between the 8th and the 15th of March, especially across the heart of Europe, if you notice. Let's have a quick look at the GFS. We're going to look at the polar vortex and the various teleconnections in just a second, because I did say in yesterday's video that we've got the potential shown in the models of something more blocked and colder towards the middle portions of the month. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll look at that briefly in a little while. Massive thank you once again to Braemar, Ballater, Deeside and Donside Weather for the very kind donation. That is very generous. You're such an extremely kind person, and thank you very much, Chris, for doing that, my friend. So yes, thank you very much for that. Very good afternoon to Richard Trott as well. Hope you are keeping well, my friend. I know your team is just about to kick off. Hopefully it'll be a positive result for you. Not so positive for the Mighty Rangers yesterday. That was a bit of a disaster, but it has been a disaster of a season overall, it has to be said. But anyway, back to the weather. This is the upcoming 5 days of the GFS ensemble. You can see here largely warmer than average across the board. Play through this loop and you can see that the milder than average theme continues through the middle portions of the month. It eases off, but its average is still slightly above average in terms of the temperatures. Much of Europe, especially down towards the areas that have been colder than average over the last few weeks, we're actually going to see the warmest conditions compared to average showing up. But let's have a quick look at something that has caught my attention in terms of the 10 millibar level of the ECMWF. 10 millibar ECMWF. Now, this is interesting, right, because the normal final warming within the stratosphere actually occurs usually about early to mid-April, and it's indicating that we have a very sharp deceleration of the mean zonal wind. So obviously, the polar vortex is measured in two ways. The winds blowing around that polar vortex, that pool of cold, that area of low pressure up into the stratosphere. The weaker it is, the weaker the polar vortex. The stronger it is, the stronger the polar vortex. And also the core temperature is another way of measuring how strong the polar vortex is. Now, the significance about this is that we would expect the potential anyway of blocking developing up into the high latitudes when you see this sharp drop off in the mean zonal wind. So this is a chart that shows the strength of the mean zonal wind. The thin red line at the top is the record strong. The thick red line in the middle is the ensemble mean. And the thin red line at the bottom is, in fact, the record weak mean zonal wind. And you notice here the thick blue line, which is the ensemble mean. So that average is the thick red line, and the thin red line is record weak. But that blue line represents the average of all the models, and it's actually dropping below average, and also reversing. The winds are reversing within the stratosphere, so they're going generally from west to east at the moment, but they're expected to reverse to a east to west direction surrounding the stratospheric polar vortex in the next week or two here. This could be one of those situations where you have a one step forward, two or three back kind of scenario, and that was the title of yesterday's video, that this could create a cold spell towards the middle and second half of March. It is mentioned in the March outlook, but also you tend to find that when you've got a mild late winter, you tend to have a cold spell that follows that before you finally pull out of winter altogether. And that is something that is quite interesting to see, that this early warming could lead to high latitude block, and it could lead to a late cold snap before we finally pull out of winter altogether. I think it's easy to get kind of drawn in by this kind of early taste of spring. Often you get that last bite from winter before all is said and done. So we'll wait and see what happens in terms of that. We'll look at the models in just a second here. Let me just see if there's any more chat here. Adam Blunston also tune in. Good afternoon, Adam. If I haven't already said it, I do apologise if I do repeat myself. But a very warm welcome to Adam. Hey Richard, blah blah blah. Let me just see here if there's anybody else that's asking any questions or simply just want a shout out, which is fair dues. That is what the live stream is all about. It's about interacting with one another, with myself as well. Always enjoy these live streams because it's a better engagement with you, the viewer, and we can kind of communicate back and forth, which you just don't get the opportunity to do so in uploaded videos, obviously. But anyway, that is the mean zone wind projected by the ECMWF. Let's have a quick look then and see what the latest run of the GFS is indicating in terms of the temperature anomalies up over the pole as we progress through the next couple of weeks here. So skipping over to the 10 millibar temperature and the heights. This is how the PV is looking at 10 millibars, the upper levels of the stratosphere at the moment. We've got this warming surrounding the polar vortex, a very distorted looking PV if you notice. We've got a lot of warming showing up over North America, over the Eurasian side of the pole. It's quite stretched, it's quite off-centre at the moment. Continue to play it through. There's that burst of strong warming that is rather evident, rather interesting to see, and it is expected to reverse the mean zonal winds towards, this is a 10th of March, and do we see a split in the polar vortex? A little bit anyway. One piece is going down into western, southwestern Europe, even into northwestern Africa. The other piece is going into North America. This is going to be an interesting one towards the latter half of March, I think. I personally think that we could see a cold spell coming up towards the latter half of March, given what we're seeing going on way up into the stratosphere. Now, another thing I wanted to show you here is this is the Arctic Oscillation. We went from deeply negative during the middle portions of February. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough cold air to really create a very cold easterly flow. We had the perfect setup, or near perfect setup, synoptically speaking anyway, but the key ingredient that was missing was the fact that we didn't have a very cold continent. Had we had a very cold continent, it would have been a different story altogether, I think. We did see cold on average, but it wasn't anything to really write home about as such. Now, the North Atlantic Oscillation, so obviously the Arctic Oscillation, is going, we're in positive. It remains largely positive according to the GFS ensemble, but we'll watch this. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that Arctic Oscillation going back negative once again towards the middle and second half of March. This is the North Atlantic Oscillation. It is firmly positive at the moment, with low heights up towards Iceland, positive heights down towards the Azores. That's your textbook positive NAO, but it's going towards the neutral line once again. And again, like the Arctic Oscillation, wouldn't be surprised if we trend negative as we move towards the middle and late portions of March. Look at the Mann-Julian Oscillation then. It's actually expected to rotate quite quickly in through phases 2 and 3. And given the fact that we've got colder air dropping into eastern North America, wouldn't be surprised if we get a few deeper lows swinging towards the UK and Ireland, Western Europe as we go forward as well here. So let's have a quick look at what the models are indicating here. Then we'll take another little brief tour at some of the extremes that have been taking place around the planet over the last 7 days or so. So this is how things are looking at the moment off the GFS. Very stretched out area of high pressure, extending from well west of the Azores all the way across southern Europe. Low heights is stretched out. So this is a very flat overall upper level setup at the moment here, with the deep trough over the North Atlantic across Northern Europe and the Atlantic. Strong area of high pressure to the south as well. Very, very zonal and flat nature to the upper level structure at this moment in time. Continue to play through. You can see here, there's that area of high pressure. Low pressure to the west over the UK, over the North Atlantic, should I say. High pressure over Europe. And we've got a southerly flow here, which is going to allow some import of slightly warmer air from the southwest. Continue to play through. You can see here we've got a bit of a split goes on towards the end of the week. One piece goes north, one piece goes south. And then as we move towards the next weekend and beyond, this is when things look a little bit more interesting. We've got area of high pressure now starting to show up between the UK and Iceland here. May start to try and drag in something colder from the east, given what's going on up above, up in the stratosphere. So we'll need to watch this space here. But look at this here towards the Thursday, the 13th of March. You can see that we've got stronger high pressure. So we're almost flipping the upper pattern on its head compared to what we've got now. Lower heights to the south, higher heights to the north. Interesting stuff, really. Let's have a quick look at the 850 temperatures here. So this is the middle level temperature profile here now. You can see that as that high then slides a little bit further to the east, we've got that low to the west. You've got the slightly milder air, but not a particularly mild flow if you notice here. But generally, with the help of early March sunshine and southwesterly winds, we're going to see temperatures respond quite nicely. And then as we move right the way through towards the middle portions of the month, we're flirting with something colder anyway coming in. There's another little burst of milder conditions into the southwest of Europe as well. So this is that fight time of the year when you're starting to see temperatures warming up in the lower latitudes. We've still got winter well to the north, and you've got that kind of battle, that kind of tug of war as we move out of one season and into another. Let's have a look at the ECMWF then and see what it is showing. We'll go back to the overview chart, back to the here and now. Again, like the GFS, we've got this stretched out high, generally UK southwards. We've got low pressure to the north. Play through the loop here, not a great deal to speak about. We've got some frontal systems crossing over the top of the high, so affecting more northwestern Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Drier across the bulk of England and Wales. These frontal systems do not penetrate to the south much because of the high height field. Deep areas of low pressure at 957 millibars up towards Iceland. This is your textbook positive Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation pattern. But again, the pattern starts to change as we move towards the end of the upcoming work week. We're seeing a split, one arm north, one arm south. We've got this vortex here. Quite messy conditions down into Spain, Portugal. If you happen to be taking a little spring break down into Spain, Portugal, it's not going to be particularly great. And this can quite often happen at this time of the year when you start to get building high pressure. You tend to find that towards parts of the autumn season and also the spring season, you get more of a blocked nature, a slowdown in the overall pattern. And quite often these areas of low pressure become somewhat trapped to the south of the UK and Ireland, creating crummy conditions across parts of Spain and Portugal and France, even the southern UK as well. And that can extend all the way down into parts of Morocco and the Canaries. And it's not great if you happen to be taking a holiday down in this part of Europe at this time of the year. This is quite often the case. So you can see here off the ECM as well as the GFS showing the reversal in the height field. We've got higher pressure towards Iceland, lower pressure down towards the Azores. But it's whether we've got cold air to play with. That's going to be the thing. But look at this here. This was shown in yesterday's video. The high pressure that is building to the northwest, Iceland, Greenland, got lower pressure now over parts of the Baltic Sea. And we could start to see a northerly airflow driving Arctic air down into the UK and Ireland here. So look at the 850s. And you can see that colder air flirting with our part of the world as we move towards the middle portions of the month. And all the while, remember what's going on up into the stratosphere. So let me see here what folks are saying, and then we'll quickly look at a couple of the extremes that have been taking place in recent days. Certainly the cold has been the big story in the Middle East. We've been talking about some record-breaking warmth in Australia. We've also got Frogs Legs Matthew tuning in. A very good afternoon to you, Matthew. Hope you're well. Who else is saying what? Let me just see here. Have to go. We'll talk now as I think my mum's saying that she's heading off. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, both mum and dad down in Kirkintilloch. Have I missed anybody else? Let me just see here. No, I don't think so. So let's crack on and have a quick look at the extremes that have been taking place in recent times. A massive thank you to everybody, 32 concurrent viewers at the moment. Be sure to hit that like button, and also, if you haven't already done so, a subscription would be greatly appreciated. There is still ongoing hard work, despite the fact that we're out of winter now, building the summer forecast in the coming weeks to come, and I'm going to be sharing lots of content, ideas, etc., etc. So I hope you can stick around for that. Interesting conditions in Reunion Island. We had the first, I think this was the first cyclone hit Reunion Island in the West Indian Ocean since the 1980s. So this is from Weather Monitor. So this is actually home to some of the biggest rainfall in a 24, 48, 72 hour period on, globally. This can be an exceptionally wet place, and it's interesting how this is the first cyclone, I believe anyway, to hit this island since the 1980s. So yeah, very, very wet, windy conditions, stormy conditions in Reunion in the West Indian Ocean. Let me continue to track through and see. This is some flooding in parts of Argentina in the last couple of days, as can be seen here. I believe this was the Santa Rosa area of Argentina. Yeah, Santa Rosa, I believe it is. Let me continue to see here what else we can look at. Again, this is the flooding, brutal stuff in Reunion. That's pretty scary stuff, if you ask me. So yeah, our thoughts and our prayers are certainly with the folks here. This was in parts of India, flooding. So that was a little bit to the north of Reunion on the subcontinent. And in the higher terrain, it was not rain but snow. So yeah, this was in parts of India, especially over higher terrain. So Uttarangada, I can't even pronounce that, I do apologise. It's after an avalanche hit this part of India. I'm assuming it's up in the foothills of the Himalayas, for example, that situation there. And again, lots of videos coming out of Cyclone Garance that hit the parts of the West Indian Ocean basin in recent times. So let me just see here. Extreme temperatures around the world, well worth a follow if you don't already follow them on Twitter. Looking at the extremes taking place. Mum says we'll talk tomorrow. Yes, we'll catch up tomorrow evening. Mum, enjoy the rest of your evening, both yourself and Dad. Let me see here. So extraordinary heat across parts of Southeast Asia. Thailand, for example, upwards of 41 Celsius, which is pretty remarkable for this time of the year. Usually find the heat peaks in May down in Southeast Asia, in particular 6 stations recording over 40 Celsius. Laos as well, 39.6 Celsius and 36.3 in China, new monthly records. Down in Australia then, we did see temperatures as high as 45.7 in Curtin, a Northern Territory March record. So Northern Territories in Australia seeing a new all-time March record. Minimum temperatures as high as 30.3 Celsius, so brutal conditions in parts of Australia. Again, this is them coming out of meteorological summer and beginning autumn down in Australia. Continuing to skip through here then and seeing historic heat in southern Africa, for example. While Cyclone Garance is moving west, a strong inflow of hot air is affecting Madagascar's eastern coast, with a spectacular 39 Celsius being recorded. So obviously when you've got a cyclone within a general vicinity, you've got the strong subsidence downstream of the rapid rise in motion within the atmosphere, and this can generate some exceptional heat. And that is the case across Madagascar, with a temperature close to 40 Celsius here. Continuing to skip through then, let me just see if there's anything else from Maximiliano. Extreme temperatures around the world. We've certainly obviously seen some epic snowfalls in parts of high terrain of Middle East. Also, we've seen it in Turkey. We've seen it in parts of China, the Koreas, Japan. It has been a particularly snowy winter, actually, across parts of northern Japan. Hokkaido, obviously home to some of the biggest snows in the world anyway. But I think that the exceptional warm summer and autumn that they've seen back last year, creating a warmer than average Sea of Japan, and probably with obviously the cold air getting driven in off Siberia, over top of that unusual warmth within the Sea of Japan has probably enhanced the snowfall in parts of the Koreas and Japan in recent times. Let's have a quick look at Terry Goose's Twitter page then, because there's some quite interesting information back several days ago with regards to temperatures in parts of Southeast Europe and also into parts of Georgia, Azerbaijan. We had it obviously in parts of the Middle East, as I explained already. Record heat. This is a tweet by 18 hours ago, 46.4 Celsius in Birdsville, only 0.1 Celsius from the March record, and 0.3 from Queensland's March record. So obviously we've seen a record high temperature for the entire state of Northern Territories, but we've also came close in parts of Queensland and also South Australia, falling just 0.4 from a March record here as well. So pretty impressive heat to end summer down in Australia. Unusually warm conditions across parts of Western Canada. Let's move on. The Maldives, for example, a new all-time record for the country of 35.8 Celsius being achieved in the Maldives. Obviously, right around the equator in the central Indian Ocean. So an all-time record has been achieved in the Maldives in the last day or so here. Continue to skip through here again, all about the exceptional mild, obviously, as we're seeing colder air dropping into the eastern side of Canada, the Great Lakes and eastern United States. We're seeing unusual warmth getting driven north up the western side of the continent. Best places in the world for lake and sea effect snow. Number 1, Western Japan. 2, the Great Lakes of both Canada and the United States. Epic snowfall downwind of the Great Lakes this winter in North America as well. And the shores of the Black Sea, Georgia and Turkey coming in at number 3 according to Terry Goose in terms of the best snowfall anywhere on the planet in recent times. This is a video here. Look at that snow sitting on top of those roofs, by the way. That's bonkers, isn't it? Also extreme cold, Middle East, minus 33.8 Celsius in Turkey. Iran down to minus 26.9. Obviously, we've got some very, very high mountains in parts of central and northern Iran, but it can get darn cold. Very hot, 50 plus in the summer, but in the winter time, it can get extreme cold as well, even way colder than what we experience. Obviously, it's quite continental as well, of course. Iraq down to minus 8.3, and even Cyprus, Mount Olympus, down to minus 12 Celsius, minus 6.2 in a location that I'm not going to try and pronounce. Again, I butcher these names, so I'm best just keep my mouth shut. But this one particular location, minus 6.2, it's the lowest temperature in Cyprus since 1964, which is rather interesting. I wanted to show you that because I thought that was quite interesting. Very cool spell in Israel as well. Temperatures down to minus 11.2 in Mount Hermon and minus 6.1 in Bahram. Minus 5 Celsius also in parts of Saudi Arabia. Very cool for late February. The March record being minus 6 for Saudi Arabia. So yeah, some impressive cold affecting some of the hottest places on the planet. So is there anything else that I can show you before we round up, since it's now 5 to 5? I hope you've enjoyed today's live stream as always, and obviously it's going to be a full week coming up here on the channel. European Outlook, we're going to be looking at the polar vortex, the Mann-Julian oscillation, continuing to see if these models hold with this kind of more blocky and flirt with something colder towards the middle portions of March. It's going to be interesting. Do we see some deep lows, for example, moving in as well? That's going to be another thing that we need to keep a close eye on, especially with the MJO moving into phases 3. Every time that MJO was rotating into phases 3, we've had stormy conditions and even named storms. So I'm very curious to see what happens over the next wee while or so here. So yeah, I think I've spoken long enough. A massive thank you to everybody. Thanks to the moderators, Paul James, Sing Splin, and to Lindsay for your support today in moderating. And I hope everybody is safe and well. Massive thank you also to the Chris for the kind donation. And I hope you're well, my friend. And I hope everybody else is keeping well. Before you leave today's stream, do me a favour and hit that like button. It really greatly supports myself and the channel. And also, if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button as well. Lots coming up, so stay tuned. Join me tomorrow night for the European Outlook, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Bye for now.